Hey everyone, ready to dive into something a little different today. We're cracking open Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. A controversial one, for sure. And listen, before you think we're turning all Machiavellian on you, that's not the vibe.
Right. It's not about suddenly becoming some master manipulator.
It's more like, understanding the rules of the game, even the ones nobody talks about.
Exactly. It's like you wouldn't jump into a boxing ring without knowing how to throw a punch, right?
Okay, so Greene gets straight to it, lays out these 48 laws. Each one's got, like, historical examples and all that, showing how people have played the power game across centuries.
Hmm.
Some of them are pretty intense, like crush your enemy, totally. Greene even says that showing mercy can backfire. Give
Oh.
your enemies a chance to regroup and come back at you. Uses history to make his point.
Yeah, and it all comes back to that long-term thinking. Power isn't just about winning the moment. It's about how to hold on to it, how to make sure you stay ahead of the game.
So you always got to be thinking a few steps ahead, like in chess.
Precisely. And sometimes, the most powerful moves, they're the ones you least expect. Like, always say less than necessary.
Oh, that quiet power, right? Leaves him wanting more.
Yeah.
It's like Andy Warhol. He was a master of that.
The less he said, the more intriguing he became. It's funny, you give people silence and they rush to fill it.
And sometimes they say way more than they meant to.
All about those insecurities, especially with authority figures. Speaking of, we've got to talk about never outshine the master.
Oh, that's a tough one. You got to be valuable, but not a threat.
It's a delicate balance.
It's like this one time, my friend, let's just call him John, he kind of stole the show at a karaoke night. Boss was there.
Oh, no.
Yeah, John can sing, like really sing. But let's just say things were kind of awkward with the boss after that.
It's about being mindful of those egos, Flattery only goes so far. Genuine appreciation, letting others have their moment, that goes a long way.
So are there ways to use these laws for good, or is it all about, like, winning at all costs?
Oh, absolutely. Concentrate your forces. That's a big one. Find your most important goal and go all in.
Don't spread yourself too thin.
Exactly. Figure out your key allies, your resources. Really hone in on that one thing. Works for any goal, really.
So work smarter, not harder. I like it.
Right. And remember, you mentioned self-defense. Pose as a friend. Work as a spy. That's a good one.
Wait, are we talking espionage now?
Not literally, of course. But just be observant, Pay
Ah.
attention to what people are saying, what they're not saying.
Knowledge is power, right?
Exactly. The more aware you are, the better you can handle whatever comes your way.
Okay, this next one's kind of wild. Creating a cult-like following. How do people do that?
It's kind of scary, right? But it speaks to our need to belong, to be part of something bigger.
It's like you see it throughout history. Some leaders, some movements, they just have this hold on people.
It's that compelling cause, that sense of community.
And a charismatic leader, for sure.
Greene doesn't necessarily endorse all of these laws, by the way. He's just laying out what he's observed.
Right, it's up to us to decide how to use this knowledge.
Exactly. We've got to think for ourselves, make those choices.
This one made me really think. Assume formlessness. It sounds kind of deep.
It is. It's about being adaptable, like water.
Like Bruce Lee said, be water, my friend.
Exactly. You're always changing, flowing. So much harder to control that way.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. Adaptability is key. Makes you hard to pin down, right? You can handle anything.
Exactly. And that ties into another interesting thing about power, the element of surprise. Greene actually has a whole law about it. Master the art of timing. It's about patience. Watching how things play out and then bam, making your move at just the right moment.
Strike while the iron's hot, but also, like, knowing when to hold back.
Exactly. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all.
Let your rivals go first.
Let them show their hand. Then you can use their mistakes against them.
Play the long game.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But then, when it's time, Greene's all about bold action. Another law. Enter action with boldness. Face your fears head on, take those risks. But calculated ones, of course.
I can get behind that. Gotta trust your gut sometimes.
You do. But, and this is important, there's a difference between boldness and recklessness, right?
So no jumping off cliffs without a parachute.
Well, maybe if you're really well prepared, but yeah, boldness is about knowing what you're getting into, being ready for the consequences.
Calculated risks.
Yeah,
Like a tightrope walker, they're daring, but they've also got a safety net, years of training.
exactly. And they know when to stop, which is another one of Greene's laws. Do not go past the mark you aimed for. You achieve your goal, you savor the win, you don't get greedy.
Easier said than done, right?
Yeah.
When you're on a roll, you just want to keep going.
It's tempting, but that's how people get tripped up.
Overconfidence.
Exactly. It's important to stay grounded. Remember, success can be fleeting.
So many stories of people flying too close to the sun.
So true. Which brings us to another interesting idea. Create compelling spectacles. Greene talks about presentation, using imagery, symbols, even those big dramatic gestures.
It's all about the showmanship.
Capture people's attention.
Those larger-than-life figures from history, they definitely knew how to put on a show.
They understood the power of spectacle. And speaking of, never underestimate a good story, especially one that plays to people's desires, their fantasies.
Isn't that kind of, I don't know, manipulative?
It can be, for sure. Greene's point is that understanding what people crave, what they fear, it gives you influence.
It's like creating a cult-like following all over again.
Right. It's powerful stuff. And with great power comes great responsibility.
Always. Okay, this one's interesting. Disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. Sounds intense.
It's like you turn your opponent's tactics right back at them.
Give them a taste of their own medicine.
Exactly. It throws them off balance.
It's like you're holding up a mirror to their flaws. Makes them question themselves.
Exactly. And, the masters of these laws, they understand the power of reinvention.
Changing with the times. Speaking of, we should talk about recreating yourself. Does that mean, like, literally becoming a new person?
It's more about taking control of your story, how other people see you.
So you're playing a role, kind of, but you're in control of what that role is.
Right. You're crafting your image. It's like, think about those actors who disappear into a role, New accent, different look, the whole package.
Total transformation.
Exactly. It's all about presentation, how you look, how you move, even the way you stand. It all sends a message.
So you're basically crafting your own, personal myth, the story you want people to believe.
And nobody did that better than Julius Caesar. The guy was a master of theatrics, public appearances, these big calculated gestures. He knew how to work a crowd.
He knew his brand. So it's like personal branding, but for, power. Makes you think about how we present ourselves in different situations.
For sure. It's about being aware of that image you're putting out there, making sure it's working for you.
So maybe it's not always about being, totally authentic. Sometimes you got to be strategic.
Exactly. And that leads us to, well, a little bit of discretion. Greene talks about this. Think as you like, but behave like others.
Isn't that kind of like living a lie?
Not necessarily. It's more like reading the room, Sometimes standing out too much, it makes you a target.
Okay, I get it. Don't make waves.
Sometimes. It's about picking your battles, right? You can be a rebel in your own mind.
Right.
But you still got to navigate the world, and sometimes that means playing by the rules, at least on the surface.
So many layers to this power game. Okay, before we wrap up, one more law really got me thinking. Assume formlessness.
Ah, yes. That's a good one. It's like, think of water. It's always moving, always adapting to whatever's around it.
Be water, my friend. Bruce Lee?
There you go. It's about being fluid, adaptable, hard to control someone who's always changing.
Like a martial artist, you can't hit what you can't catch.
Precisely. The 48 laws of power, it can seem a little intimidating at first, all these rules and strategies.
Definitely a lot to process.
But really, it's about understanding how power works, and sometimes it's not about force. It's about strategy, about being smart, being adaptable.
This deep dive has given me a lot to think about, that's for sure. What about you? Any of these laws really stand out to you? Let us know in the comments. And hey, if there's a book you'd love to hear us dissect, drop a comment about that too. Who knows, we might just feature it in a future deep dive. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this one with a friend who loves a little mind-bending analysis. Until next time, stay curious.